Check 1 2, test 1 2. Can you hear me? All right, y'all. Well, it's time again for Porsche night at Ace Cafe, and we're gonna kick it off tonight and have some fun with someone that I just met yesterday. And you know, he was sort of cruising around Porsche South Orlando, flying a low profile, and we started conversation. And he has this awesome car that's behind us here, a nice Porsche GT4. And Michael Schultz is going to join us here, and we're going to get into some conversation about, you know, his Porsche passion and everything that's been cool to him about Porsche in his life. And we'll talk about a few other things as well. But, you know, we're out here on the third Monday of every month for Porsche night, so I want to encourage everybody to come out, join in the fun, bring your Porsche out, have a blast. There's all kinds of cool people here. We got great fun inside at the bar and with food and whatnot. So come on out and see us next month and have a blast with us. So tonight, as I mentioned, Michael Schultz is with us with his GT4. So welcome to the show, Michael. We really appreciate you saying yes and coming on with us tonight. I know you're probably saying, what the heck am I doing here? What's the deal? But, you know, we just want to say thanks for coming out. And so tell us a little bit about where this whole Porsche thing started for you. What was the very first thing that appeared in your life that was Porsche?
Well, first off, thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate the invite. A little short notice, but
That's right.
Porsche for me, they've always been on my radar, but you know, they're a pretty special car, right? So it wasn't something that I ever imagined myself having. It was just, you know, the poster on the wall, growing up, that kind of thing. But I come from a motorsports background. I used to race motorcycles, so I kind of did things backwards. You know, every 16-year-old kid gets their first car. For me, it was the first bike, you know, so I kind of did it backwards. I went from motorcycles, then into cars later in life. And actually, my grandfather had this beautiful 991.1 GTS and mahogany metallic, paint matched wheels. I mean, this thing was super old man spec, you know, like peanut butter interior and everything, but I fell in love with it. Wish you never got rid of it. I mean, last of the NA, you know, 911s. I mean, that thing.
Now you said it was your grandfather.
Grandfather. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm just making sure I'm okay here.
Yeah, I mean, I would have.
When you said old man spec, you know, I'm like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have been how I would have spec'd it. You know, it needs to have Alcantara everywhere if something I'm gonna have. But it was beautiful, and I had a chance to drive it. You know, I drove it as much as I could, as you could imagine. But after driving that car, I quickly realized what a Porsche was. You know, because I've driven, you know, I've had some cool cars, but nothing is quite like driving a Porsche. And to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, it's the driving experience, and you know, every time you get in it.
I'm gonna hold you for 1 second. This happens every time we're on the show. This train is like clockwork. It comes by, it lets us know they're here. Pretty short one though, it'll just come through and clear out.
I think it's every 10 to 15 minutes.
So, hey, this is live. This is live. This is what happens. So I'm sorry. So let's carry on. So you said Porsche. Really, when you drove your first Porsche, it got into you, right? That's really where it all started.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a ton of very cool cars out there, but ultimately, there's nothing like driving a Porsche. It's the ultimate driver's car, right? And to me, that's always been the most important, whether it's been my personal cars or riding motorcycles. I do it because of the experience and, that feeling that you get when you connect with it. And to me, a Porsche it's the pinnacle of that, you know what I mean? And especially the GT4, which I'm sure we'll get into. I hope we have plenty of time. We'll be here all night if you let me keep talking.
Yeah, no, we can. And for me, it started as a kid for me, and it sort of, we all have those stories, and it seems to start with someone in your life, introducing. I hear a lot of these stories where it was a dad or grandfather or just really a good friend or a neighbor or you saw this Porsche drive down the street as a kid, and you just it captivated you, and maybe you rode your bike to follow where the car went just to get a closer look at it. So all these stories are similar, so it's always exciting to learn, what did it for you, and when you talk about experience, that is really what it's all about. There's the old tagline, Porsche, there's no substitute. What does that really mean? And you try to explain that to someone who's never ridden in one or never wanted to experience that, and it is kind of hard. But as soon as they get behind the wheel, it's all over, right?
Yeah, it must make your job pretty easy. As soon as you get someone out in a test drive, it's, done deal. I mean, it's similar to us. I'm in the sales business as well. And same thing. I mean, as soon as they, I sell bikes. So as soon as they ride what we sell, it's, makes our job very easy. Because, I mean, if you're selling the best that there is, I mean, it's just a matter of educating the customer on it and finding what they want. But, you let someone drive any of these things and it's game over, so.
Well, so talk a little bit about the motorcycle stuff. So you rode as a kid. Did you race competitively? Did you race professionally? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so motorcycle racing's strange. So I'm sure you're familiar with like club level racing versus pro level racing. I did a few wild card pro rounds with the AMA. I lived in Florida my whole life, so anytime I went to Homestead or rode Atlanta, which was close enough, I'd do that. But primarily it was club level stuff. But the funny thing about road racing and motorcycles here is at the club level is really where you can sustain it and support yourself. The national level, you're basically, as you know, racing, you're throwing money away, you're burning it. But in club level racing, you can actually sustain yourself. So I had the opportunity to race for full-time, a living for a privateer team down in South Florida. Did that for about 5 years. And, had to get a real job at some point. So then I moved over to where I'm at now. I work for Eurocycles of Central Florida. We sell European motorcycles. So whether it's Ducati, BMW, Aprilia, Triumph, if it's European and it's exotic with two wheels, we sell it. So I wanted to stay in the industry. I'm very passionate about not only cars, but also motorcycles, as you could imagine, and just motorsports in general. I mean, if it has a motor, I'm very interested in it. So that's kind of where I came from. And like I said, I got into the car thing I'm 30, so I guess I can't say too late in life, but I wasn't that 16-year-old car guy. Yeah. Now that 30-year-old car kid, I guess. I'm trying to catch up. But so I mean, I own my dream car. And
there's nothing better than that. And I know Michael and I just met yesterday. He came into Porsche South Orlando, and he was, as I said, just flying a low profile and checking things out. And when we started to have conversation, it was amazing. We started to talk a little bit, and then you told me about the motorcycle thing, and I started talking about Ace Cafe, and you guys have a shop or a merchandise shop right here inside Ace Cafe, right?
Yeah, so it's like you said, primarily merchandise / retail place. We do have bikes on display there, so we try to keep it pretty well stocked on the cool stuff, which is the bikes. But you can buy riding gear, accessories, apparel. It's more of a boutique, so it's more high-end stuff, but we're trying to flesh it out with some more, reasonable price stuff, because some of that in there right now is super high-end stuff. But we're still figuring out our inventory over there. But if you Ace is, it's the center of motorsports in Orlando right now. I think what they're doing is very cool, whether it's cars or bikes. There's always an event going on every night. I live right down the street, so it's very convenient for me. It's awesome to come down here and just see cool stuff like what's around us right now. But yeah, we have a store there. We're about to open up a store in St. Pete. We have one already open in Tampa, here in Orlando, Daytona Beach. Central Florida, we kind of got Central Florida, which is nice.
But yeah, you got it covered. So, what a great thing. What a great transition from you to go from, riding having such an awesome time doing that, and fulfilling some probably childhood dreams of being a motorcycle racer, right? Yeah. And then you're able to sort of parlay that into what you're doing now. Kind of similar paths that we've taken. I spent a lot of time in another industry before coming into Porsche here just recently, but the Porsche's always been in my blood, since the 70s. So that's a lot of fun. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the car. How did this one come your way? How did you make the decision to get involved with a GT4? You gave a little spills there earlier as to why maybe this particular car, but let's hear a little bit more about that.
It's pretty romantic, actually. You actually spoke yesterday when I first met you that you have a customer that has a Miami Blue GT4,
Yes.
and that actually is the car that inspired me to get one. So I actually saw it here at Ace, that specific blue car. And, I've always, like I said, Porsche's been on the radar, but the Cayman to me was never really that exciting, right? I mean, it was more the entry level into the Porsche range. But the more you learn about it and the more you can really appreciate what it is, right? And the GT4 is just the extreme of that. And once again, talking about the driving experience, having the mid-engine was something very special to me. Because once again, I drove a 911 as my first Porsche. And the first time you feel lift oversteer, you quickly, learn to realize that, yes, it's a driver's car, but it's very different. It's a completely different driving experience. I do it quite a few track days, not only on the bikes, but in cars as well. And they're tricky to drive. And that's what's interesting, right? It keeps you on your toes.
Right.
But yeah, so the mid-engine, to me, was a very nice blend between having Porsche engineering, but in something that was a little bit more balanced, right?
Yeah.
So it's no secret that, the 911 design is certainly a handicap. They happen to make it work. I mean, it's the fastest car in the world around a racetrack right now, the GT2 RS, but that's with a handicap, right? That's with one hand tied behind their back, basically. So for them to make something mid-engine with the kind of pedigree they have and the engineers they have was very interesting to me, right? Because ideally, the weight should be in the center, right? Not hanging over the rear axle. So that was the first thing that caught my eye about the Cayman. But then you can have a Cayman with GT3 parts, basically. The suspension, everything, the front clip. I mean, it has a lot of GT3, GT911 components, but on that mid-engine. So, and it's limited. It's special, and.
Yeah.
For the price, for the value, I'm a huge fan on value, right? I can't afford the, $250,000, $500,000 GT2 or whatever they might be. So, it made sense. If I wanted to get something cool, this was it. And like you said earlier, we're talking off air a little bit about being patient. I had to be patient for this one because basically, if I was going to spend that kind of money, it needed to be something that, that I liked, obviously. Yeah. So I didn't have the opportunity to get one when they were new. As you know, they were pretty hard to come by. You kind of had to be invited to buy one. And at the time, I was nowhere in the market for one. So the goal was to find one that would be how I was going to build it, right? So if I had the opportunity to order one from scratch, this would be it. So starting with the color, GT Silver. It's an iconic color. I mean, German motorsports, the history behind that color and what it represents. To me, I'll always have a Porsche in my garage until the day I die, and it will always be GT Silver. Just because it's cool. I mean, there's a story behind it. And then I can talk about this all day. Let me know if I'm...
Well, no, so the GT Silver, I mean, that's it. I mean, I have plenty of people who come into the dealership and they ask me, what are some cool colors? What do you think? And I say it doesn't get any cooler or any more full of heritage for Porsche than a GT Silver car. When you look up on the board and you see the first Gemund, 356 in 1948, it was GT Silver. So it has that long tradition and long heritage. So, all right, so you found the car, your dreams, and now you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Just tell us briefly before we have to move on to our next guest, but tell us a little bit how you are enjoying it. Are you driving it both on the street and the track? And maybe what's one extra cool thing that you've done with it recently?
Yeah, so it's kind of my everything car, right? So as much as I don't say I daily drive it, I end up getting in it more often than not. I drive it to work. I go get groceries in it. But at the same time, it's my weekend car. You know, I'm planning a trip up to Deals Gap, Tail of the Dragon later this summer. I'll drive it there. Mileage on it does not concern me whatsoever. It probably should from a resale standpoint, but you know, once again, we talked earlier about kind of what my next car was going to be, and I'll probably just get something else. You know, I'll probably always have it. But yeah, it's also my track car. I try to get out to the track every other month, something like that, and get it on the track. And you know, I just put a 6-point harness in it, which definitely helps when you're driving on the track. And it's full bolt-on, so it's a little obnoxiously loud, which I like. You can hear it, intake, tune, that kind of thing. But you know, one of the coolest parts about this car to me was that when you buy it, you really don't have to do anything to it. And that's what's also interesting about Porsche with me is you buy it and it's ready to go. I mean, it has adjustable coilovers from the factory, carbon ceramic brakes. It's, you know, it's not a super fast car, but that's also why I like it, you know, because you can actually drive it.
Yeah, you can, and that's what's the cool thing about Porsche. We spoke with Hurley Haywood out at the Festivals of Speed this year, and talked to him about, you know, what's your favorite Porsche and that kind of stuff. And he brought that very fact up that you just said. You know, Porsche is the only make, a car that you can actually take that car that came from the factory, take it to the track, just slog on it all day long, hammer on it, have a blast, drive it off the track, and drive it home, and not have any issue whatsoever. You know, it makes the transition simply, and you know, it's unbelievable in that way. Well, I tell you what. First of all, I wanted to say thanks for, you know, coming on with us. It was yesterday that we met for the first time, and you know, as soon as I started to mention that, hey, I got a slot, I got an opening, and you know, you were all in. So I think that's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed, you know, having the conversation and sort of the Porsche Fellowship out here tonight. I'm sure that there's plenty of people who are really enjoying looking at your car out here. I can tell you that for sure. And you met the 6-point harness. That's probably a big transition for a motorcycle guy, right? Like, you didn't have to deal with any of that when you're riding bikes, right?
Yeah, I mean, on a bike, you know, you're moving around a lot. So, you know, when you're strapped into the car, that is very odd, right? I mean, it's all here and on your feet. So.
But it's the only way that it happens. You know, in a car like this, it's got the performance, it's got the braking. You couldn't stay in the seat unless you had your harnesses on, so it's the only way you can drive the car, right? All right, well, Michael, again, thanks so much for coming out, talking with us, sharing the Porsche passion with us. Such a great thing to have people just jump in the seat and feel comfortable like you do. I want to wish you all the best at Eurocycles. I'm sure you guys got a lot of cool stuff going on over there all the time, so I want to tell people, you know, go see Michael and his team at Eurocycles, whether it be here at Ace Cafe or the other stores. You can find all their information on eurocyclesoforlando.com. Is that correct?
We have multiple websites, but the easiest would be eurocyclescentralflorida.com,
Okay.
yeah, or CF. But yeah, from there, you can, wherever you live across Central Florida, we have you covered. So. And
we can follow you on social media too, probably on Instagram or those things, well, under the same brand?
Yeah, just look up Eurocycles, it'll pop up.
Okay, all right, great. All right, well, thanks, Michael. I really appreciate you coming on. And we have another guest coming on just in a moment. Michael, you're going to pull the car out, so everyone's going to get treated to a little start up here, and you fly out of here before we have our next guest on. So thanks again for coming on. Yeah, man, thank you. Yeah, no wheelies. I don't know, man. It's his car. It's whatever he wants to do. You know, he's a responsible guy. All right. Well, I'm going to back up right here so we can get, you know. So we're going to bring on Chris Mealy now from Porsche South Orlando. And Chris, I'm going to come down and join us. So Chris is going to come on, and this is the car that he drove out here today. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I think we're fine. Yeah.
How are you?
All right, cool. All right, Chris. So it's time again. It seems like it was just yesterday that you were out here, right? I mean, it was, I forget what month it was last year. It probably was somewhere in maybe September or October that you came on. So it's awesome to have you come back out. Thanks for joining us again.
Got it.
Thanks for bringing out a cool little hot rod here from the dealership. I don't know, you want to talk about that car a little bit? You want to tell us a little bit about this one that you brought up? I mean, you've been driving it recently, right? So what's your impressions of it, man? What's the deal with this car?
It's an amazing car. It's Porsche, obviously a Panamera Turbo S E-Hybrid. It's got a lot of horsepower. coming up on 700 horsepower, over 700 foot-pounds of torque. This one's really a nice one, so dark blue with truffle brown interior, and it's got all the good bells and whistles on it, so it's a fun car to drive.
So it's pretty exciting. It's awesome, huh? Yeah. All right, so Chris is the owner and general manager of Porsche South Orlando, and you know, it was a pretty easy thing. I asked him if he'd like to come on, and he was all in. And the real reason that we wanted to have him on, not just to talk about the dealership, because there's always cool stuff going on at Porsche South Orlando, but to talk about your experience of heading out west, and it was, what, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now?
Last week.
It was 2 weeks ago, right?
No, last week.
Just last weekend, that's right.
Yeah.
So there is one of the largest Porsche shows anywhere. It's called Lufticult, and it was started by Patrick Long, Jeff Zwart, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name.
You know, it's funny, and I was thinking the same thing. But
yeah, so we'll get to it later. But just some, you know, awesome guys, iconic guys in the Porsche world, and they came up with this idea several years ago, and it has just grown and grown and grown. And last year, for the first time, it went overseas. Yeah. They had a meetup overseas. So this thing is just exploding, and it's one of those things that's just, you can see why it explodes, because people that are passionate about air-cooled Porsche are all over the world. And what they've done is put it in a format, and they're surprising everyone every year, right? They pick out a new place, and this year it was at Universal Studios on the back lot. So why did you decide to go to Luft 6 this year? What was all about it? Why'd you go out there?
So I went to Luft 5 last year, and it was really an amazing event. It was actually held in a lumber yard, and it was a really cool backdrop, and I said, wow, how can they top this? So we went. Obviously it was Universal. Backdrop's really cool. I mean, you know, just to be sitting there on the same set where they filmed Back to the Future. So that one scene was where he's running the cable up to the clock. Right. That's actually where we were. And there's some photos online, obviously, and you can see it all. But it was really a great turnout. And, you know, you saw all the big wigs there. You saw the Jay Leno's, you know, former racers. You saw Tommy Kendall, Justin Bell. I mean, the list goes on and on. Tons and tons of people that are obviously involved with the brand, and it's just really good to see everyone. And obviously the weather cooperated, and it was a perfect event. So it's nothing like going to California and spending some time with great people and the Porsche brand. Yeah.
So, well, they put it together this year. I guess they only announced it maybe a couple of weeks or 3 weeks before they announced the location. As Chris said, they had it in a lumber yard last year, and the setup was phenomenal. I thought, well, how are they going to top this? You know, how are they going to top it? And so when they came out with this surprise of having it on Universal back lot, I thought to myself, wow, this is fantastic. One of the first pictures that I saw posted from the weekend was, I guess there is a set that's like a gas station there. And I don't know who came up with it. I actually sent a message to Ray Schaefer with Porsche, asking him, hey, Ray, who came up with the idea to put this here at the gas station? So he sort of pushed it off and said there were some other people involved in that. He didn't take credit for it. But it was such a perfect setting, and how they put Porsche right above it. So it sort of took you back in time. Absolutely. And the way they had the cars right out front. Was that something that caught a lot of the people's attention? Was there a lot of people that were around that station?
Yeah, and that one section where that vehicle was, you know, they had, again, it looked like an old classic fuel station, and you know, they obviously had all the new, you know, corporate look of Porsche on the outside, but they made it look period correct. So it was cool. Everybody was hanging out over there, and then, you know, if you've never been to Universal, to the backstage in the back studio, the back lot, you know, it quickly goes from, you know, you're in Back to the Future. Next thing you know, you're in an old western town. You go around the bend, you're in Mexico. You come back around, you're in Manhattan, you're in Chicago. So, you know, you could see where they filmed all the different stuff. But the one that caught my eye, again, to your point, you saw the fuel station. The first one that caught my eye was they had a movie theater.
Yeah,
an old
I saw
cool
that one too with the 917.
Yeah, and that was just a great look, you know, and you're coming in, you're checking it out, and you're like, wow. And then you went back around on the other side, and it was kind of like the skyline of New York, and they had all the roof cars, and a bunch of singers were over there, so it was really, really a neat event. But what you originally said, how do they top this? Yeah, so like, where do they go next year?
Yeah, where do they go? Well, I've got confidence. You know, when you have the creative minds that you have involved in that, you know, Jeff Zwart. I mean, this guy is, you know, the king of the mountain, right? I mean, he's raced at Pikes Peak and had so much success there, and continues to teach people how to go about going up that mountain. And he's got driving talent that is just incredible, but his talent for the camera, his talent for shooting film, he's done so much things for so many companies over the years. So he's got that creative side of him. So I think that's what is a real driving force in the whole deal. So I got confidence it'll blow our minds, next year, wherever it is,
Sure.
just like this year. It's funny you brought up the roof car, because I know that you'd traveled to Germany last summer, I think it was, and you got to visit Roof. And I saw the Yellowbird. There was a Yellowbird out there, I think. It was on some wood planks. So tell us a little bit about that. I know Roof is something that that you have a lot of passion for. So tell us about that. What was that like?
That car in particular is, the CTR. So I actually went out in that vehicle. We drove around some of the back roads in Germany.
Oh, wow.
And then we took it out and we went ripping, we went out on the Autobahn. So it's approximately 2,300 pounds, I want to say. Don't quote me, I don't know right off the bat, but it's a little over 700 horsepower. So the car's a kite, and it's got lots of power. And, I was in a GT2 RS right before that. And I thought, obviously, that was the fastest thing I've ever been in. Honestly, until I got into that roof car. And it was a whole different deal, because it didn't obviously have all the traction control things. It didn't have all the electronics. I mean, it obviously does have some of the stuff, but not to the level that you would see in a new Porsche GT2 RS. So the car was raw. It had a lot of power, and it just reminded, that 964 look. It's such a classic look, and the work that they do there is really amazing. So hats off to Alois in Estonia. They do a great job, and it's really good to see that their brand is obviously as big as it is globally when you look at this little factory. Yeah. So it really is an amazing place to go. And if you've never gotten a chance to go, if you're making your way over to Stuttgart, that's definitely one of the places on the bucket list to stop for sure.
Yeah, that's a place to stop. I have a good buddy. I think I introduced him to you not long after we opened the store. He's got a Roof 3400S Boxster that was built by Roof. It was sent over from the U.S. and they did it, and he just loves the car. He visited Roof about 2 years ago, and I could see it. Like when you're telling me about being there, it was the same sort of look he had in his eye. It was just like a surreal experience to go to it. And for folks who don't know about Roof, I mean, basically what they do is they take a body in white from Porsche, basically the shell of a 911, and then they build the entire rest of the car. And it actually gets a VIN from Roof. So
it's the CTR.
The CTR is different. Yeah.
CTR as a whole, it's their own chassis.
Yeah.
But the new Yellowbird.
Yeah.
Is a whole carbon fiber car on itself. So it's just and if you've never gotten a chance to really see them up close, if you can't do it in person, obviously go to their website, do a little research. But really interesting cars, and what they're able to do is just amazing to me.
So when you got out to the back lot, now I noticed I asked you to send me some pictures, personal pictures from your phone that you took out there, and I was surprised that you had as good a look at the cars. I've talked to a lot of people who have gone to Luft, and they say, I say, hey, well, show me your pictures. And a lot of times there's just so many people that you can't get a clear shot. So did you get there early? Did you have a little extra deal to get in there when there weren't so many people, or how did that work out?
So if you were putting a car on display, you had to be in there really, really early. We obviously didn't, so we went out there, and but we were kind of smart to the rule. I learned my lesson last year. I was pretty close. I got lucky. I got a hotel really close last year. This year, I had family that lives actually right there, so I knew the hotel that was right there, the Sheraton Universal. Really nice property, and it's right there. You have the Hilton or the Sheraton. So the day they announced it, within 5 minutes I booked it, and I think the hotel sold out that day or the next day. So it was literally a walk out of the hotel. So we got up early, and we were still on East Coast time. So, we were 3 hours ahead. So when it was obviously, 7 in the morning there, it was already 10 for us and vice versa. So we were up, and we just kind of strolled down there nice and early, fired off some photos, and it was good. But it got busy in the afternoon. It was really, really busy. And the weather originally was saying that it was an 85% chance of rain.
Oh, wow.
And the sky was just like it is here today. It was just absolutely magnificent. It was a beautiful day. And everyone was talking about the cars, and then everyone was throwing in, I still can't believe it didn't rain.
Well, that's cool. Well, it was fun to sort of live it vicariously through everybody who went out there. If you try to explain this to someone, who's a car guy, maybe not a Porsche guy, how do you explain it? Like how do you communicate what that event's all about? You've been to 2 of them now. You sort of learn maybe a little trick to get there a little bit earlier to enjoy it, but how do you begin to explain this to somebody who's maybe not in the Porsche world?
It really depends on their age, to be honest with you, because if they're like us and they were, graduating high school somewhere in the 80s or 70s or 60s even, you go through there and you take a look at it and you say, hey, these are all the cars that I saw when I was growing up. Whereas, the body of the Porsche 911 has changed quite a bit from an original car, from a 60s car, all the way through the 964. So when the 993 came out, that was really like the first big change of the look. But it still obviously had the high fenders and the low hood, and it still has that to this day. But for the people that saw those cars, and again, like you said, it's almost like the Harley guys, where you have the panheads and the knuckleheads, and the guys that wanted the old kickstart Harleys. That's culty in itself, and you get a lot of those guys that go obviously to Daytona or Sturgis or some of the big events. That's kind of what I would explain this as, but it's at such a really high level, and it's done very professionally. And there's a lot of supporting people, obviously. Like you said, you got Jeff Swart, you have 000 Magazine, you have the manufacturer, obviously, Porsche, who's there. And, you have everyone else there who is either a supporter doing their own air-cooled events. The fellas from down south with the DRT. You have just other people that came from Luft in Munich, and guys that did Luft in, I think they did one in the UK. There was so many people that were there internationally, and they really traveled far to get to California. So to your point earlier, that you could see how much it's really taken a life of its own, and it's one of those things that it's a bucket list if you're a Porsche guy.
Yeah,
if you're not a Porsche guy, you'll really enjoy it. But if you're a Porsche guy, it's the same analogy I would say as if you're into fun amusement parks, you got to go to Disney.
Yeah,
it's the same deal.
Yeah, you got to go check out Look. So for me, I want to get your impression. For me, one of the cars that I was really looking forward to seeing and hearing about was Rod Emery's 356 RSR. And this is basically a recreation. I won't say a recreation. This is a creation of Rod Emery, sort of what he thought a 356 could be one day, and he imagined it himself and put this thing together. Just an amazing car. I've heard everything about the car. People saying that it's outrageous. He went too far. To people saying, this couldn't have been done any better. This is like as perfect as you can get to put together a car. I'm more on that side of the fence. I got introduced to Rod over the course of the last year. Spent some time speaking with his family and my family at an event that I did this year, and they're just such awesome people. Yeah. They are just fantastic people. Like, everybody wants to have a friend like Rod Emery. Absolutely. I mean, they're just top-notch people. And what he has done in that car is just, for me, is amazing. So what was your impression? Did you get to see the car close? That's what I'm dying, like, to talk to somebody who was like, right there, that could practically touch the car. What did you think about it?
So I did see the car when they unveiled it at the Peterson. So that was on Friday night. So everyone was there. A lot of people were tired. And this thing comes out and you're like, wait a second, what is that? So everyone went up there. They went to check it out. Obviously, they were all there. And from what I understood, they were working on the car, trying to get it finished, all the way up into just a few hours before.
Yeah.
So they were thrashing on it, but the car looked great, it sounded great. It was really, really a cool car. And I'm kind of in a line with, it's definitely Porsche.
Oh, yeah.
But it's definitely got Rod's touch and vision on it, which is very cool in itself. Yeah. And I enjoyed it. I mean, I'm one of the people who personally really enjoyed it. I thought it was a cool car and had a great sound to it.
Oh, my gosh.
But part of the deal we did with 000 Magazine was they opened up the vault for the museum itself at the Peterson. So they arranged that they had all the cars in there. And the thing that struck me the most was when Porsche went to Le Mans in the early 50s to where they had the 1970 917 there. So in 19 years from 51 to 70, you can see how far they advanced. And when you look at the 917 to even the 919, granted, it's advanced a lot, but when you looked at that original 356 look, and they went to a 917 in just 19 years, you can really see how they were really pressing. And the amazing part for me was how they did it. They didn't have the computers, they didn't have all this stuff. That's the old fashioned, drawing boards, like they say, CAD system, or it's none of that. It was the old slide ruler and penciling it up there, and they were really making it happen. So for me, that was just really the most amazing thing to see when you see the timeline from in 19 years. So it was an enjoyable event, and I can't say enough about people going out there. So if it's something that you're thinking about doing, do it.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you sharing it with me, and sharing it with everyone who takes time to listen to our little show that we do here. Just having fun and spreading the Porsche love, so to speak, because it's something that's definitely on my bucket list. I want to go to it someday. I'm sure I'm going to make it. We'll figure it out somehow. And it's just awesome when you have that many people in the community that are together all at once. I know that there was plenty of people out there that I would have loved to have seen. I know you probably saw Kevin Jeanette out there as well, and and all these guys that are just they are the quintessential Porsche guys. I mean, they are just over the top for the brand. They love it and they spread it everywhere they can, and it's just a lot of fun to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to talk about with the dealership? Things coming up or anything at all you want to talk about Porsche South Orlando?
Yeah, we just had our grand opening party officially. It was a little delayed, and the reason being is that we had to wait for the schedules on some of the Porsche brass. We know they wanted to be there for it, and it was great. We actually had Klaus Zellmer, President and CEO of Porsche Cars North America, Joe Lawrence, head of sales for Porsche Cars North America, and then the whole Southern Region team, Dave Kurtz and all his folks, as well as Porsche Financial. So it was really, really nice to get everyone there that night. We had a lot of people there. We had, again, I felt like I was running for some political office, to be honest with you. I was hugging, kissing, shaking hands with people, kissing babies. I was doing the whole deal. But it was a lot of fun. And again, everyone that has seen the dealership, whether it was on a video, was photographs, the big comment that came back, they couldn't believe how big it was. Everyone from Porsche Cars North America was just awestruck by the dealership. And we run a tight ship, as you know.
Yeah.
And they couldn't believe the attention to detail that we put into it. So I want to really thank my team, because I stood up there on the stage, getting all the accolades, but in reality it was really my team that made it happen. So kudos to them, hats off to them for doing a great job. And we got more events coming up, and I really encourage people to come on out and meet everyone there. And if you want to go ahead and get invited to the next stuff, you got to show up,
right.
And you got to, get your name on our mailing list. And the only way to do that is by coming in person.
Yeah, and it's tough too. You have a grand opening event, and I'm sure that there's people out there, who maybe didn't get invited, who would have loved to have been there, and it's a tough thing. We wanted to really take care of folks that have purchased cars from us and had come in for service and so forth. And so there'll be more. We'll do more of these kinds of things, I'm sure, in the future, and just continue to spread that word around Central Florida that we're a cool place to come and just talk Porsche and have fun with the brand.
Absolutely.
So, Chris, it's awesome. Thanks for saying yes again to come on and really giving us that personal sort of perspective about Luft, because it is a very special thing, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy listening to what you had to say about it. So thanks for coming on again. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
All right, guys. All right, so we're going to switch gears again and invite some more folks in here, and I'm going to look over to Hank and we're going to. Okay, perfect. So we're going to run a clip a little bit, and we'll be right back to you in just a couple of minutes.
Smash Customs is a facility we have located in Central Florida, and what we do here is we modify, service all types of vehicles. Exotic, American muscle, classic, even modern day late model cars. Here at our shop, what separates us from any other shop is the modifications that we do are done in-house. So we have a facility that can do everything from cut metal to leather, from full paint and body, or buying a car directly and selling it as is. Here at Smash Customs, another thing we'll do different than most people is we have 30 years of experience just in the buying and selling side, so we know the market very well, which means we buy our cars right. And when we buy our cars right, it means we can sell them at the correct price of what market value is instead of an inflation price to cover our cost.
Smash Customs is different from your average car shop because A, we work on exotics right next to rat rods. We have a very knowledgeable team in all fields. Both our sales team has at least 50 years experience, and our mechanic slash body team, paint team probably has over 100 years combined experience. So right there, we outdo a lot of other shops. We have a lot of very good machines to help in the restoration process, like a plasma cutter. We have a chroming system. We have hydro dippers. Those things are for cutting metals out if we want to make certain shapes. If we want to make a part camoed, we can dunk it in our hydro tank to put any type of custom design on it, from sticker bomb to camo to carbon fiber. We can make a part look like. We can paint a part to be lime green chrome, purple chrome. Smash Customs is located at 622 East Myers Boulevard, Mascot, Florida 34753. Come by and check us out.
You can check us out on the web at smashcustoms.com, especially on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Stay tuned. We're going to be staying relevant. We'll see you there.
All right, so we're on. So, Joshua, right? Come on over. Come on over, brother. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, have a seat. Let's have a seat and kick right into it. So I got to tell you, first of all, you've got my attention with this car.
Why?
Well, so my Porsche story goes all the way back to the 70s, okay? But I moved to Florida in the mid-70s with my family, and in 1983, the first Porsche I ever purchased was a 1975 914 2-liter.
So you want a second one?
So you got my attention with the car, so that's pretty cool. I know some of the other guys, I guess, had met you somewhere else and got you to come on the show, so we want to say thanks for coming on with us.
You're welcome,
and telling us a little bit about your Porsche passion. So where did it all start with you?
Well, actually, you were from Smash Customs, and Smash Customs, we do restorations, modifications, resto mods. Porsche is just one of the types of vehicles that we restore.
Okay.
But we do Fords, Chevys, Ferraris is what we're known for.
Okay.
We actually had a 308 at Celebration, win second prize there as well. But we take pride in our Smash Black, and that's what you're seeing right there.
That's what this 914 is called, Smash Black?
That's what we call the black. It's a dark, intense black, right? And so,
Okay. All right, so was this done for a specific customer who brought the car to you, or did you guys just find a 914 and decide to build it up and see where that took you?
We actually found this 914 and then decided to do a touch-up on it. It's not a complete restoration, but it's partially restored. But as you can see, it came out pretty sweet.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah. I call it the Bumblebee.
Yeah, well, there actually was. So if you don't know a lot about that, you're not necessarily a Porsche guy.
Yeah.
You're just a car guy who appreciates all the brands. There was actually 914 LEs. It was called a 914 limited edition, and this was back in '74, and it was a 2-liter car, and they'd made them in 2 different versions, a Bumblebee and a Creamsicle. And the Bumblebee was black with the yellow, similar to this, not exactly like this, but similar. And then the other one was a white, sort of an ivory white with orange. So that's how you got the Creamsicle, like the dessert, popsicle, the Creamsicle. Yeah. And those were, super popular 914s, made in pretty small numbers. There's a real following for those cars. And in recent years, the values of those things have really started to go up. So this is kind of like an outlaw LE, I think.
Yeah, it is. Actually, and we get a lot of bids for it. But it's been interesting to see as we keep doing different things to the vehicle, how people get, passionate about the vehicle, and they start just bidding on it even higher and higher and higher. It's interesting to see that though.
So how much have you driven the car yourself?
Actually, I do some of the test drives on it, and I drove it down here today, so actually quite a lot on this unit. So, we like to test drive our units to make sure that they're driving correctly, everything's functioning,
Sure.
Everything's road safe, right?
Yeah.
Because on these older cars, some things, are old wiring, not the sophisticated electronics that there are right now. But we do a really good job at Smash Customs with that, and we take pride in what we do.
Yeah, one of the big things with these cars was they had plastic fuel lines down the tunnels of some of these. And so a lot of those were problems over the years, and guys would burn up cars, just, simple fuel line thing,
Exactly.
Really simple. So, but it's so cool to see this out here. We don't see a lot of 914s out at Porsche night. We see them almost every Porsche night. There'll be a 914 here, but you see them in all different varieties. You just don't see many of them on the road anymore.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see one that's in good condition.
Yeah.
It's survived, and it's been refreshed, and it's sort of given a new life thanks to you guys. So how did you start Smash Customs? Are you the founder?
No, I'm not the founder. I'm the vice president of the company. Dwayne Dundor is the founder of the company.
Okay.
He started this many years ago, and one of his passions was the vehicles. He's got a fondness for Ferraris.
Okay.
And he's moved on with other vehicles as well. He likes some bikes as well. But it's interesting to see how he applies his creativity to these vehicles. It's incredible.
Well, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about the business. Where is it located, and how many people are on staff, and how many cars do you guys turn out a year? Can you share any of that information with us?
Absolutely. We're at 622 East Miles Boulevard in Mascot, Florida.
Okay.
We have a huge, about 20,000 square foot shop, and we have senior mechanics, junior mechanics. We have our own paint shop as well as upholstery, which we just added now as well. We found it's just a lot better to keep a lot of the subbing in-house.
Sure.
We'll probably bring on a lot of the suspension work in-house. We do a lot of we'll kind of, if there are vehicles that need to be put together from the ground up, we'll do that in-house. But once it comes time to alignment and balance, we go to experts that, but we're going to bring that in-house also as well.
Great.
Yeah, we'll probably do about maybe anywhere between 7 to 10 vehicles every year. More in the realm of about anywhere between about $30,000 to about $250,000 per vehicle, depending on the vehicle itself. We're starting to really specialize with Land Rover Defenders now. We've got a few of those at our shop that have been completed as of late. And we think that's going to be an interesting market segment to look at as well.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So how did you hear about Porsche Night? Where did that come from? How did you hear about Ace and Porsche Night?
Actually, Big Mike from Cycle Fever.
Okay.
We did some work with him back with the USO. You know, where a lot of people at Smash Customs were all prior service, so we take a pride in that, and that's where I first met Mike. But he's been doing this with Dwayne for pretty much a while now.
So how long has the business actually been in existence?
Probably over 40 years, probably. Yeah, it's been there for a bit. Yeah.
Wow. Well, good for him. I'd love to meet him someday. Maybe we'll get him out here with another Porsche some night, right?
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty cool.
We've got another Porsche, but it's an off-road Porsche. If I come here, I might offend some of the.
An off-road Porsche?
It's basically a Porsche that has an off-road body on it, and we just put a 911 body on it, and then we're making it street legal now.
Wow, so it's going to be like a Porsche swamp buggy? Is that what you're telling me?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call him your swamp buddy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. So coming out here for your first night, what's your impression? What'd you think about coming out here, meeting some of the folks, talking about Porsche? Anything in particular that sort of you're going to take away from tonight going, wow, that was a great experience?
But we've got to come back, definitely. But it's interesting to see some of the newer models and how they mix and match, and seeing the enthusiasts ask questions about the older models. It's interesting to have those conversations, right?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, did you have a chance to look around inside Ace Cafe, sort of see any of the history and the heritage in there?
It is. It's awesome in there. It's beautiful, actually. Yeah. It's a nice place to come and hang out once a month, right?
Oh, cool. Well, I tell you what, I want to thank you for coming out and tell us a little bit about Smash Customs. Do you have a website or social media that people can latch onto and follow you guys?
Yes, you can go to smashcustoms.com, and we're on Instagram and Facebook, and feel free to visit our website and you can see some of our builds right now that we're working on. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for coming out. Sharon, you said Black Beauty?
Smash Customs Black.
Smash Black. Well, Smash Black is stealing the show a little bit there. I can see that those colors are popping off the screen right now. So again, thanks so much for coming out. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back and see us at Porsche Night, and help us to get some more people out here too. Help us to spread the word about Porsche Night, and we'll absolutely spread the word about Smash Customs too.
Have a great day.
All right, great. All right, guys. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap us up. I don't know. Shawn's looking at me over here like he's done. I do want to mention though that there was a guy that we had booked onto the show tonight, Crazy John, and he just he stayed out too late last night, I guess, and he was too tired to come on in. So Crazy John, you got to do away with the excuses and just show up next time, okay? So, but anyways, that's it. That's it for now. Hank's giving me the bozo ears back there. We're done for the night. So thanks for joining us, as always, on Porsche Night, the third Monday of every month. Come out and join us. And until next month, we'll see you next time.